and welcome to the Paint Pod, where we dive into the vibrant world of art through chatting to amazing artists about their life and their work. I am Sarah Hodgkins. I am the muralist at Charlotte Designs and now, of course, a podcaster. Today, my guest is the wonderful Farrah Fortnam, who has been creating the most vibrant and colourful murals around Bristol and the surrounding area for about 4 years now. And my opening question to you, Farrah, is what is it like to be a mural artist in Banksy's hometown?
Well, it's quite a privilege to be, like tied with Banksy. Wow. And I get called like, are you the new Banksy? I'm like, no. But no, it's so lovely. It's just been so accepted and people have been amazing. And it's just, I never thought I was going to be a mural artist ever. And I think in Bristol was probably the only place it was going to happen or take off like it has done for me. And with all the available spaces and just the enthusiasm for it. So, yeah.
Absolutely. My son was at university in Bristol, so I did spend a bit of time in Bristol. And I mean, there is just street art everywhere. You turn a corner and wow.
I'm in the heart of it as well. I'm in Southall and it's, well, that's
are you?
It is, isn't it? And it's just everywhere. So lucky. And it's so beautiful, isn't it, to have free art because people can't always afford art. And that's the best thing about it's accessible to everybody.
And that's really how murals, without getting into a mural history lesson, that's how murals got going in the 20th century, certainly as a public way of people accessing art. So you're absolutely right. I just, there's nothing nicer than turning a corner and seeing a beautiful piece of art that you weren't expecting. It just puts a smile on your face.
It really does. Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, I like to start off these conversations with a little bit about your background, how art was present in your upbringing, and specifically for you, you mentioned your uncle Shafi, I think it was, who was an artist, and you had a real love of his work. So I'd like to explore that a little bit and find out how that influenced you as an artist in your early days.
Oh, that's so lovely thinking of him again. Yeah, he passed away a couple of years ago. So I was really my lovely uncle. But he was the only sort of artist that I'd known in the family.
Okay.
Because I had just a natural skill, I'd be painting and drawing at home all the time. And he loved that about me, that we had this one thing in common, which not anyone. I have a big family, lots of aunts and uncles, but to see the one that was so creative and, I'd see these oil paintings in his house and, sketches of people. And I was fascinated with it. It's like, wow, now that's the real talent. So I really looked up to him.
Nice.
And he just inspired me so much and encouraged me to think that, oh, maybe this is, an option. This is something I could do with my life, but it wasn't his primary job or, being a painter, but he was a sign writer. So it was still creative. So, yeah, I just looked up to him and he was just, really talented.
So did you take art at school? Was that a subject that you enjoyed? And was that a big part of, I don't know, your young life?
Yeah, it was. I definitely did art at school. I remember as young as I remember winning art competitions and,
well done.
Yeah, it was just like, I'm definitely applying for that. And then I'd win them. And then I was just, in schools hall of fames and things like that. And obviously took art as a GCSE and got my A in it. And, it was just wonderful. But I couldn't quite see how I was going to make a career out of it. I just knew I loved it and I wanted to paint and draw as much as possible. I think it was more sketching, not even painting. I wasn't that skilled with the paints and things. I think because, I don't know, maybe it's something to do with being able to afford paints and things like that, or was never given it as a gift. So it's easy to have a pen and pencil.
Absolutely.
A sketch pad. So that was all I used, just pencils and sketch pad. And I would just immerse myself for hours.
I was exactly the same, interestingly. So I know, and it's one of those things that you look back on and think, you know, how that must have instilled something in you at that early age, but you perhaps don't even realise it at the time. It's like you say, it's just something that you enjoy doing.
Mhm.
So from what you're saying, your style in your early days was very different. I mean, when you say sketching, are we talking just black and white?
Yeah,
And what were you drawing?
it was just like still lives, actually. It will
Okay.
literally be, I was fascinated with plants. And as you
Ah,
can tell, that's
yeah,
how it sort of evolved, my love for nature. But it would be plants. My mum would always have plants in the house, and I would just sit there with the sketch pad and just draw from the still life that I saw in front of me. And I was fascinated with the shapes of the leaves,
lovely.
and there was gorgeous. And so it was more literally observational drawings, and I got slightly, I don't know, interested in architectural drawings as well.
Okay.
Fascinated with houses, and I'll draw my own house, and that probably leads me on to why I ended up doing technical illustration at college, because yeah, it wasn't that sort of, freestyle, abstract, intuitive art. It was more observational back then. Um, so that's why it's interesting how I broke free from all of that and I do something that's totally different now.
Completely different. So
Mm.
talk to me about the technical illustration, because that's something that, I mean, you probably can't even do that now. I did technical drawing when I was at
Oh,
school.
did
I mean,
you?
I did. And it's probably not even a subject you can take now, because of course it's
No,
all
I don't think
CAD and computerized.
yeah.
So how did you get into that, and what made you go down that route?
I think for some reason, again, I was fascinated with building design and buildings and houses. And, when I was about 12 or 13, I just imagined being an architect. I don't
Yeah.
know where it stemmed from. I really cannot think where that stemmed from. Maybe because when we moved to a town called Beckton in East London in Docklands, it's a very new estate. And maybe so that played in my mind. It was brand new, like buildings are being built everywhere, and maybe I just imagined what I could do if I was a designer or an architect. And I think I was always good at that element um, of maths at school as well. I was
Ah, that's
silly and
interesting.
everything else, forget algebra and all of that, but it was like, just that sort of type of maths I was fascinated with, and area and perimeters. So I just enjoyed that, and I thought, I don't know how I'm really going to make a living out of the art that I do. So, yeah, so technical illustration, I think I thought about doing architecture, because I was trying to find a feasible career. I think at that time when
Yes.
you're like starting to think, oh, what can I do in the future when I leave school? So I think architecture was a thing that I thought I could earn some decent money.
Yeah.
Uh, because I just couldn't see there was a way of earning a decent living through just doing sketches, what I love doing. So that's how I got into doing a technical illustration course after school, after doing my GCSEs, did quite well in them. I did A levels for one term in art, media studies, and English, but it just didn't feel right. Just doing
Okay.
a straightforward art course, I just thought, I don't know where I'm going to go with this still. So then I dropped out of college and then had a good think of what I could really channel my energy into. And then I found this technical illustration course
Brilliant.
in Essex and thought, oh, that sounds perfect, and I did really well in that and really enjoyed that.
So how do you think that I mean, that clearly got you on the road to a creative career, but as you rightly say, that is very different from what you do now. So how did that transition occur from technical illustrator that is
Mm.
looking to potentially become an architect to something more flowingly creative?
It was it just, I don't know how it just evolved into something else. So then I wanted to pursue the technical illustration. So there was a course at Bournemouth Art College to do H&D in that, and then that was broken up into two parts. So it was a natural history side of the illustration course or the technical. So I chose to specialise in the technical illustration side because that's what I'd done previously. And it wasn't feeling very, I wasn't enjoying it as much. I
Okay.
thought, oh gosh, where am I going with this now? And I was a bit stuck there, and I thought, oh gosh, I just couldn't see a future in doing anything like that, because that's when the computer aided design, all of this
Of course, yeah.
evolved, and it just took me away from the drawing board. It's like I can't see a future in actually sitting at the drawing board anymore. It's all going to be computer aided, and that's not the route I wanted to go down. I thought, I don't want to do computers. That's not what I was hoping to do. But naturally, by accident, I ended up learning about graphic design, and then
Okay.
I quite enjoyed playing as we ended up on computers using a lot of Photoshop just to design book covers and things like that. It was a very broad course, maybe not the best one. So sorry.
Fors and against, I think. There's definitely fors and against with things like that. I think broad courses just give you a flavour of everything, and that can sometimes be useful.
Yeah, so I guess it was in the end, because it made me think like, oh, graphic design, what's this? And maybe I can learn about that. And then I got into typesetting and fonts, and I got obsessed with that a bit. And then before you know it, I graduated and ended up doing graphic design jobs, and quite enjoyed that. And it was, again,
Why
it's
not?
like nothing you plan to do. I never said I'd go to college and be a graphic designer. There's specific graphic design degrees and courses, but I just naturally kind of fell into it and got really amazing client contacts, and worked for United Advertising Publishing in Poole in Dorset, which was a right laugh, great fun people, all shifts because it's a publishing house, but gave me the great skills of working in the publishing industry. And then before you know it, I was working for Cambridge Evening News, and yeah, it was really good. I ended up working as a studio manager for Sports Bit magazine in Cambridge.
Right.
I did really well, being the studio manager and managing a bunch of 4 designers, and it was quite fun. It was great, but then the joy was diminishing. It's like, where am I being really creative here? And I wanted to be my own boss, sort of thing,
Okay.
And I just had to break free. So I'm like, oh, I'm just getting a bit fed up here. So I would buy canvas and just start experimenting on canvases at home in my spare time.
Right.
And that's how the painting began. I don't know what made me go out and buy some paints and experiment on the canvas. I can't remember why I did that. But
Well, thank goodness you did.
I know. It's something I was terrified of. Paints. Why am I getting paints? I really can't think why. But yeah, and then I started experimenting on canvases and really enjoyed it.
So your very distinctive style, is that the kind of time of your life where that started to materialize? I mean, what we haven't talked about yet is obviously your love of, your real love of nature, the environment, your care of the rainforest, all those kinds of things. Do you think that led into the development of the style that's now very much synonymous with Farrah Fortnam?
So I think that's the second stage. So what I would paint on these canvases were sort of intricate Asian designs, almost a bit like where from my culture, my background, from being Pakistani origin, we would do a lot of henna art, and you've got the paisley designs and things like that.
Yeah.
That's the sort of designs I was sort of painting on the canvases. I thought, if I can do it on a hand, let me try it on a canvas. And so you might see why that's how I evolved from that sort of style. And then I think I became a bit more conscious of the environment after that. Really, that wasn't my primary reason for painting. It was just practicing and playing with my designs, and it's very geometric, sort of. I guess you get it from Persian
Yeah.
art, we look at Islamic art. And then I think it's when I went abroad on holiday, took a year out and went snorkeling and swimming in the Great Barrier Reef. I've talked about this so many times, but that is the big sort of shift in my
Yeah.
work. I thought, wow, I want to paint what I'm seeing here. This is stunning. So I got the real inspiration from swimming in with the coral reefs and with the shoals of fish, and I just wanted to paint the colours and the movement that I saw. I've never
Yeah.
seen anything just move like that. And but also along with that came the realization that the coral reefs are dying. They're being bleached by climate change, and I learned a lot about that while I was
Mm.
out there. And I thought, oh gosh, this is really heartbreaking. I've just come here, I've just experienced this for the first time in my life. And for them to say, oh, if you come back 20 years, they won't exist, they'll be bleached. This is
Mm.
how dire the situation
Terrifying, isn't
is.
it?
And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. I said, I want my family and friends to know this, to see this. So I came back to England and started painting my heart out, just canvas after canvas after canvas of coral reefs and the oceans, and to get that message across, like these are precious ecosystems that we need to protect. And I want people to enjoy them. If they do die out in 20 years' time, at least I painted them in my paintings, they might last longer. It's all of this overwhelming passion just came
Yeah,
from
yeah.
that trip. Yeah,
And I
life change.
completely get it. And what's interesting for me is I've been following your work probably since you started muraling, actually.
Oh,
So a little while now. And
yeah,
I've always loved the colours and that feeling of movement. But it wasn't until I started to read up that I realised that was the origins of it. And of course, as soon as you say that, it's completely obvious that that's
yeah,
shoals and fish and
yeah.
corals and seaweed.
Oh my
But I
gosh,
didn't see that straight away. Isn't that interesting?
that
I
is
just saw,
amazing.
yeah, I saw leaves, I saw feathers. So all part of the natural world, but I
Yeah,
didn't necessarily see that straight away.
yeah. So maybe you didn't see my very first collection where it was. I called it ephemeral shoals. So it's all very blue scenes and just all the
I'm not
colours.
sure I have.
So you might have seen my latest stuff, which was my rainforest, which is all very green and leafy. And that's after another trip to Borneo. And that's when I became obsessed with rainforests then, because I saw them being all chopped down and like,
Yeah.
what huge destruction on the planet. What are we doing? Gosh, I got to paint rainforests now to raise awareness. Um, so yeah, so that amalgamation of both of those ideas is
Yeah.
what I've ended up with now, really, with the yeah, it's just nature, oceans and rainforests, and yeah, all the colours, just everything thrown in now in a big pot.
That's one of the things I love about your work. I'm a massive colorist. I love color, adore color. So for
Yeah,
me, anyone that uses color like that, I'm on board. I'm so on board. For me, it's just
yeah,
joyful. Okay, so I'd like to talk now a little bit about. You've talked about how you were working as a graphic designer. You did your first paintings as a result of your trips. What was the first painting you sold? What was that moment where you sold a painting and thought, hang on a minute, this could be something?
yeah. So again, it was when I started painting in Cambridge, and I had a bit of a collection, piling up at home, and just chatted with friends. And there was a cafe literally down the road that would go to all the time. CB2 Cafe. Are you still there, CB2 Cafe?
Give me
Anyway,
a
there's
shout out.
gorgeous. Yeah, that was my big break basically. So they used to exhibit local artists' work, on a very sort of casual basis. And I approached them and said, "Oh, can I have some of my paintings up there?" And I think instead of being one or two, I think because I had so many, I had a whole exhibition there, and it's for 1 or 2 months, I think it was, and I was selling paintings, and oh wow, this is amazing. Just in a couple of months, I must have sold 3 or 4, and
Wow.
couldn't believe there was interest, basically, because I was just a start. I'd never painted before. So that gave me so much confidence. I'm like, I'm going to carry on then. This is not just a little hobby. This could be something. But I mean, I didn't give up my day job. I'm still a graphic designer,
Okay.
course, but it was a nice little hobby that paid. Um, and then I think after that, it would be another cafe somewhere else. And then after that, it would be one down in Dorset. And yeah, it was just amazing that people were interested. And then I had to quickly come up with a sort of a website, sort of, to where
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could gallery, and people would inquire through the gallery. And that's how I made other sales as well, and commissions. And I'm like, well, this is really good, isn't it? But it wasn't until 2008 where I quit my job, got married. We went traveling around the world for a whole year, and then came back and thought, well, do I want to go back into graphic design? Do I want to do this now? Obviously, I know that's what I'm trained in now, and I've got all the years of experience. I shouldn't give up on that. But I really wanted to pursue. I just felt so passionate about painting
Mm.
now. After what I saw, I thought, how can I not paint? I had all these ideas buzzing around in my head. So I tried to do both. So as part-time graphic designer, part-time painter, and it just
Wow.
continued on. The art, selling almost every painting that I was creating sold. And so, yeah.
Fantastic. And then I suppose that the catalyst for the going into the mural side came through COVID, I believe. I mean, COVID was a transitional time for all of us, but I
Yeah,
think for you specifically, it was a massive time of change.
change. There wasn't too many good stories that came out of the pandemic, but
No.
mine was for my career, it was, and maybe some other artists say it was for them as well, because I
Yes, they
think,
do.
yeah, because people had money, but people were chained to their homes, looking at their own four walls, and what do they want? They want a piece of art, something new, to bring them a bit of joy. And so that's why I was continued to do well in that. But then it was one pivotal moment when I take part in the local art trail,
Yep,
and yeah, it was cancelled, Art on the Hill,
of course.
naturally. But I was like, I just still wanted to create some art for the community. If I thought, if there's a way I can still create some art for the community to enjoy, to bring some joy to in such dire situation, what can I do? So I had this big wall at the front of my house, which I always joked about. Oh, I'll paint that one day. But never knowing what entails being a mural artist, and what is a mural artist. I've never even heard of the word. But I painted my wall and I enjoyed it, and it was gorgeous. And those people just are so enthusiastic about it and complimentary, and they just like, wow, okay, it's just my award, I'm doing what I like, but
Yeah, yeah.
and then yeah, lots of people were interested in it, and then I'd get messages, because obviously I had an art page, like a social, like a Facebook page and things like
Okay,
that
okay.
done in the past. So through just my Facebook page, I would get requests, can you paint my wall as well? And wow, okay. And it just gave me so much confidence because it's so well received. And yeah, before you knew it, within I think a year, I was approached by Upfest to paint one of their walls for their 75 wall project. And that's
Fantastic.
where it took off, big scale.
And are you still doing a lot of murals now?
It's changed a bit, it's dropped a bit, I think, because naturally, because of the financial situation we're all in, people don't have that money anymore. We're really struggling to survive and just live. So disposable income is, there's not much around of that. So I've noticed that it's been quite scary
Definitely.
for me, because everyone years ago would say, wow, you're doing so well as an artist. Oh, it's amazing. It's your full-time job. And I was always aware, it's like this, I know this could be just a lovely season, and I know it's not going to be the same forever. And I'm going to enjoy it and work hard as much as possible. But I always had that in the background, I can't I know it's going to be a struggle. I had good luck. I mean, I worked hard, but it's not just good luck. But I did know that it can be temporary. Things can change. People run out of money. The way the world is going, and that, yeah, so it has affected it quite a lot. But people still buying the canvases as well, and that's why I pushed, do my canvases as much as possible and do my art workshops. So it made me realise that art people need art more for well-being as well, rather than me just
Really.
putting a work of art. I got to understand people love to learn with me. When I ran one workshop, earth painting workshop, and I did one for the Unicornfest, people just loved the process and they just found it very therapeutic. Would just sit there and I would guide them, and they were just mesmerized with the way how easy it is to almost create a work of art, but how therapeutic it was. So I started focusing a lot on the art workshops and my own personal projects, my own
Yep.
collections of paintings that I wanted to put out. Because when you work as a mural artist, you're sort of being, commissioned to do that, You can't really be as creative as you want. So now I've got that
Absolutely.
spare time to really, focus on my little projects that hopefully will be big projects.
Yes, absolutely. And I think it's easy to forget that whilst there is an enormous amount of joy being an artist, and there is, we are doing something that we are passionate about and we are earning a living from it, but there is a fragility there. We are to an extent at the mercy of what else is going on in the world, and it can have an enormous effect on not just who's buying our work and how often it's being purchased, but also the amount of work that we're able to produce and how creative we are feeling to produce a quality of work as well.
I know that was the crazy challenge, because I was back to back producing massive murals, and I guess I didn't realize how exhausted I was, but I was just on a roll, and everyone being so excited about my work, it just like, oh, okay, I'll just carry on. But it's funny. I wish it brought me a lot of joy, but it's almost like I was in a sort of dreamlike state. I was maybe a bit numb. I produced these paintings, but I think it was a numbness about it all, because I had eco anxiety. I was so terrified of the way the world is going, and the climate crisis was just unraveling, and the tipping point, all of that. So I was painting. Everyone thought, oh, it's amazing, it's beautiful. But I think inside I was crying. I was literally crying, and that's why I paint, like the World on Fire mural for Upfest, because I thought I've got an opportunity. Okay, people want a lovely work of art, but I can't have it without a big, strong message. This is the world on fire, and I wanted to name it that, and it didn't actually put anybody off, and people loved it so much that I was asked to paint a canvas version of it, and that sold. Upfest exhibited it for me, and then we created limited edition prints, and they just went off the shelves, and it was like, wow, it's called World on Fire. People, the message, thank God, the message is getting across. People are understanding. I think because I was donating 10% to Rainforest Alliance, because I thought, if I'm producing art, I have to help the planet in some way. I can't just produce a work of art and not do anything. So that's my purpose, really, to produce art to help the planet.
Absolutely. And I think that's quite a common theme talking to artists, obviously, as I have been, that there is that feeling of wanting to do something, wanting to amplify what is going on in the world, but at the same time feeling quite helpless. I think, to be fair, I think most people feel fairly helpless with the situation. We feel very small, and as if what we're doing is never going to be enough. But that shouldn't be a reason not to do it.
Yeah, exactly. It has to start somewhere. And I've got the responsibility as a mural artist. I'm so lucky that I'm getting hundreds, thousands of people looking at my work. Wow, okay, there's my audience. I'm not just going to have that conversation with my family, friends. I can get that heartfelt message out to the wider public. then that makes me feel less hopeless. So
Yeah.
it gives me some hope.
And that's what murals have done for the last over 100 years. So
it's amazing.
Powerful. Absolutely. I want to touch a little bit, if I may, about the commercial side of your business. As we've been chatting, you've mentioned you've got your canvases, your prints, you've got your mural side. So presumably there's still a commission element to what you do. And I also notice you've got your printed bags and your phone cases. And, you know, I looked at those and thought, that's a genius idea. Your work, particularly, I would say, perhaps more so than anyone else I've interviewed, is perfectly suited to that kind of way of selling, and is a great way of getting it out to a whole new audience. Talk to me a little bit about how you decide where your work's going to be and how you price that as well.
Well, I still need my big break in that, getting a brand to support me. That, you know, I've just done the one-offs really, and they've been fine, and the one-off commissions. But yeah, I just have fun basically. If I find something that looks blank, and I'm like, I will paint that. It doesn't stop anywhere with me. It doesn't stop at a wall or a canvas. It's just anything, a pot, a bag.
Don't stand still too long. I'll paint you.
Yeah. But pricing wise, when I guess commissioning, getting commissions for things, I think I just go by what's worked 3-4 years ago, and you know, people happy to pay that, and I'm like, well, don't change that. They're paying, people are seeing the value in my work. So I didn't really start at the bottom, because I think it helped being a graphic designer, because I had a really good sort of decent wage, and I thought I don't want to get any less than that. I want to progress. I'm not going to start at the bottom. So I sort of priced jobs going by that, and they were doing well, and then I increased it slightly because I think I was advised by a couple of galleries. It's, you know, sometimes artists devalue their work. If you increase it, actually people will pay because it's original work of art. So
absolutely.
I just thought, you know, I'll just cover my time and my materials, and I'm happy with that. But I'm like, oh, maybe let me try a bit more. Let me double that. And because it's not every single day, I don't get a job every single day. So it is kind of part time. So I thought, well, that will balance it out. So if I charge that, I know I'm not going to get a job the next week, but so it balanced everything out. And again, art is a one-off bespoke work of art, and people will pay that. And people have told me, oh, it's above their budget, but they've gone back and saved for it, and then come back to me, which is just beautiful, because they really want to support artists and not devalue our work.
Yeah,
They want to
I
pay
get
us
a
the
lot of that.
price.
It's lovely. It's so lovely when people say that. It's
It's really, they don't discounts, they just understand, and they see the value, which is brilliant. So that's done really well. I guess I've been lucky, and I sort of started really well by charging what I wanted for my time. I never and my work is very fast. I work very quickly. If you ever see me painting live, people are like, wow, you do that so fast. How do you do it? Because people are like, it must take ages. I'm like, well, I've just got a, you know, just a style of, you know, just find it very therapeutic and fluid, and it doesn't take as long as people think. But still, they get a gorgeous work of art, which is the point. It's not how long it took me.
And do you plan? So, you know, if you're, do you sort of sketch out what you're going to paint beforehand, or do you just give people a rough idea, or do people just give you a rough idea and you just go for it?
I guess no, I never plan unless I'm asked to. Like for instance, I had a big project for the Van Gogh Expo, and so that, you know, they wanted to see visuals of what I was going to produce, because it was, you know, they wanted a bit of a starry night theme, and I was like, wow, okay, pressure. This is a big client. I got to do some visuals here. So I did the visuals. I'm like, yeah. So I had to stick to that, which goes against of how I work, really. I'm very intuitive. I get blank canvas and I just paint. And for instance, this painting behind me, it's a female, but I didn't plan it. I didn't draw her out. I just went like that, and just thought it just evolved. and that's how I paint, because I feel so restricted if I'm drawing things. I just can't. I don't feel comfortable doing that, but I can. I've had to do that for projects. But for instance, I've got a couple of mural jobs lined up the next few weeks. I'm just going to get my brushes and paints and just start.
Yeah, no. And
Yeah.
it's wonderful that you can do that, I think, because it almost goes against how you started. You've gone from kind of being quite precise and I would imagine having to plan everything to being the complete opposite to that. And I wonder if there is a almost rebelling against that early.
Yeah. I think I'm just fed up of rules. I'm a rule breaker. I'm a rebel. So I'm just going to do what I like.
I love it. I love it. Go the rule breakers. That's what I say.
Yeah. So that's what I do now. Yeah.
One of the things I wanted to ask, again, this is a mural question, so apologies for this, but when you're painting a mural, as we know, especially if it's out on a street in public, you get a lot of people stopping, asking questions. How do you deal with that?
I'm going to be at the school as well. I'm going to have all the
schools, yes, well, that's where I'm meant to be this week.
What is that? What's it supposed to be? Can you paint a ladybird? I will, and yeah, I have to zone out sometimes because when I'm working, I do have my music on or have my earphones on. So I love chatting. I do love chatting to the public. It's so fun.
Part of it, I think.
Yeah, it is, and I don't get harassed too much. It's okay, when I've been up on scaffolding, then obviously I'm too high to have a full-blown conversation with them. I'm like, hi there, and thumbs up, and all of that.
Yeah.
So
you have to keep your time frames in mind. I always think. I often think I really need to be out of here by the end of Friday, so I've got to crack on.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, you've got the weather, you're looking up at the clouds, you can't have a 10-minute conversation with somebody when,
Exactly.
You, so you just got to crack on, be polite. And I think they understand that a lot of the time.
Yeah, no, I think so too. And which kind of leads me on to my last question in this sort of area, and that is, how do you deal with the time constraints? Because obviously when you're a canvas artist, when you're in your studio with your canvas on your easel, you can take as much time as you like. And if things don't go right, in fact, I was talking to an artist last week about this, you can chuck the canvas out and start again. With a mural, you don't have that luxury. So how do you deal with those time constraints when you are painting your murals?
So when I book a job, I always give them an idea. We're penciling this in because of the weather. So obviously indoor murals are fine, they're straightforward. Outdoor murals, we're penciling it in, we look on the weather, then it's worked for the past 3 years or so that I allow another week or two. So I've sort of penciled them in, said if it rains, then we've got the next week.
Okay.
And then the following jobs, all a bit like that. So we're always allowed 2-3 weeks break in between jobs. So I've got that backup. And that works. It's worked perfectly for me because I will get the job done eventually in those 3 weeks. But then I've got that time when it's raining, I can do my canvas jobs indoors in my studio and all of that. So I've always got work to do. There's always so much to do. So I think that having that window of about 2-3 weeks per job has worked really well. And I've always made it aware with the clients, with the customers, that there's going to be a lot of change, swapping here and there. One job's going to have to take priority because they booked it before, and everyone's been totally understanding with that situation. So it's worked so far.
Yeah, no, and you're absolutely right. There's it depends on the job. Every job is different, but it is always a juggling. I spend most of my summer reorganizing my diary. That's pretty much what I spend.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Scribble out. There we go. Write it again. Yeah.
No, not that one.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit about things like growing and evolving as an artist. It's been lovely to talk to you about your growth as an artist from the architectural through the graphic design to where you are now. How do you continue to push yourself and continue to grow and develop as an artist?
Because there's so many possibilities. I'm overwhelmed with so much. The trouble with me is I love doing so much. Like I dance, I teach yoga, I paint, I do graphic design, I do kids dance classes. There's so much I want to do, which really makes life a nightmare for me because I want to do it all. If I just painted and that's easy. But sorry, I've forgotten the question now as well. What was the
Just how you grow and evolve as an artist, and especially given what you've just said, you've got so much going on in your life. Do you have to devote time to experimenting so that you can continue to develop your craft?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I guess I'm quite I don't know. I feel I get bored quickly as well. And if I just stick with something, I can make that evolve more. But I just, oh, I have this idea, I have that idea. And then I overwhelm myself. I want to do it all. Basically, for instance, at the moment, I'm working with WWF, World Wildlife Fund. I'm producing a painting each month of their top 10 endangered animals. I thought this is a really lovely
Amazing.
idea to work with them, work with the charity to help my purpose again. But then at the same time, while I've got that on the go, I wanted to help Rainforest Alliance. I wanted to continue with my sort of challenge, my daily challenge of doing a painting a day. Because as I'm not working outdoors on murals, I thought, oh, I want to keep motivating myself. And how can I do that and work with the charity as well? And then at the same time, life evolves. I've got Women's Day coming up on the 8th of March, and I always run, a dance yoga event for women in my local community. So yeah, keep that in mind if anyone wants to come to that. But
Definitely.
I'm thinking of women and how I need to help women because my daughter at the moment is struggling with school life, and my focus is now again shifted. And I just it's so natural for me just to try and make my work out of that then. So I'm like, oh, I need to talk about women now and maybe paint
Interesting.
more women now and talk about women empowerment because I keep talking about the climate crisis. I think the root of the cause of the problem is the unbalance of the masculine and feminine. We are so at the bottom of the system, and our
Yep.
voice is not being heard. So I can say, let's protect the rainforest, let's protect the coral reefs. I think it's almost now I have that realization. It's not pointless, but I feel like it almost is without educating women, empowering
Mm,
them to speak up and be represented more, then there'll be the balance and our voices will be heard fairly to make a
couldn't agree
difference.
more.
So now my focus is like I've got to get bigger and get deeper with this, with my purpose now. So I'm just overwhelmed. My head is like going to explode, but I have to balance. I have my diary, focus, prioritize. But that's just the way I work. And yeah,
And are you quite a planner? Are you someone, I mean, I guess to a point you've got to be, given what you've just said, with so many different things going on in your personal and professional life. Are you a planner? Are you someone that is constantly at the diary and seeing what's next?
yeah, I guess I am. I've always got my diary to hand, always, and my to-do list on my phone. I'm
Yeah,
updating it every day because things shift. Something is more important than the other thing, and
definitely.
I have those like goals for the year, and I tick some off and I shuffle them up. But I'm constantly checking in with that every day, and I think that would help lots of people if you have that
Definitely.
daily, rather than just one set thing that doesn't move, that's stagnant. If you keep changing it daily, that really helps get things done because life changes. And like for instance, you know, I have to, yeah, well, the weather, whatever. What can I do indoors now? Because now I can't do the jobs outdoors. You just keep prioritizing, and yeah.
Thankfully, women are very good at that. We are so good at just being able to. I mean, I know there's this thing about multitasking and all of that, but I think it's more than that. It's not necessarily about multitasking. It is about being
Demand.
able to flick your focus and your attention to something else completely and focusing on that for the amount of time it needs it, and then focusing on something else. which kind of leads me very neatly to my next question. And that is, I understand you still have quite young children. So you've had to balance the motherhood and the career. How have you done that? And what advice would you give to other artists who are perhaps having to do the same thing?
Yeah, so my kids always come first. So whatever I've done since I've had my children, it has to work around my kids. So
Absolutely.
I always thought I'm the primary caregiver. I will have them as long as I can. I won't put them in nursery if I don't have to. And they went to nursery when they were 3.5 when they had to go. But that's why I ended up doing the art at home with them. We got creative together while they were getting mucky hands all over the table, and I was getting mucky with my canvas. And then also, that's how my dance classes started. I thought there's not enough exercise classes in my area for kids,
Nice.
because music, we turn the music on, that makes us feel good, and we're exercising at home. I thought, why do this in our tiny little room where, if okay, let me go and hire out a hall down the road and see if other people are interested. And the classes were a huge hit, and I couldn't believe it. Like, what? I'm now running dance classes for kids, and that's the thing. I think that's how women have to make it work. They've got to make it
Definitely.
work if they have the skills, if they are lucky enough that, they have supporting partners or whatever that can help them do that. And because it's hard, but I think I chose
Very.
to have kids because I wanted to be the mother. I didn't want to go to work and they'll be second priority. They're my priority, and I work around them. And even now, pick them up from school, and then my work day ends.
No, and it's lovely to hear you say that, because you almost are saying exactly what I say when people ask me a similar question. I started Charlotte Designs when my son was 1. So
Yeah.
I had a 1-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. And so it was just chaos.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
was just juggling everything. It's like, ah.
Yeah.
But now my kids are adults. They don't need me in the same way. I've now got a thriving business, and yet I've still been there for every concert, every sports day, all those things that are an important part of being a mum.
Yeah.
And it wasn't easy at the time. I'm not going to pretend it was,
Yeah.
but where I am now, and I'm quite a few years ahead of you,
Mm.
it's just made such a massive difference, and I'm now so pleased with how it's panned out over the years.
Yeah, so amazing how we can juggle things. But I wanted to teach my kids that you have to have fun with your work, because if they see me grinding it and being miserable and stressed out, they're like, well, is this what we're gonna have to grow up to be? So I had to be their role model and find work with something I enjoy, so art and dance, the things that I love the most. If I can make them work, then I'm going to throw all my energy into that. If I don't make it work, then I've got a backup. I'll go back to my graphic design. But I've got to show them that you have to enjoy life. You have to, you know, sort of live first, and then
Absolutely. And follow your dreams. I think that's the other example that we're setting our kids. Follow your dreams, follow what's in here in your heart.
yeah,
And if it works out, great. And if it doesn't, then try something else. That it's not just one single path for everybody. There are lots of, you've proved that. There are lots of different ways of making your way in the world.
yeah.
And
We
I
don't
think
have to make huge amounts of money. If we make enough to live and to have quality life, then that's what I want to teach people. You don't have to
same.
make big bucks. It's enough for me to live on, but I have a really happy life. But if I'm not worrying about the climate issue, otherwise I'm enjoying as much as I can possibly, and I won't change it for anything.
Absolutely. No, that's really lovely to hear.
Oh.
So, what is coming up next for Farrah? You have mentioned your World Wildlife Fund project, which sounds very exciting, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing the pictures of that on Instagram. And your Women's Day event. I think this podcast is probably going to come out just a little bit too late to promote that. But tell us a little bit about it anyway, because I'm sure you'll be doing something similar next year.
Yeah, so I run, regular dance classes. I do Dance Rapture at the moment, which is, an hour dancing in the dark with gorgeous music. And, I'm trying to make a healthier way to rave. So you don't go out, spend money on clubs and bars, drinking
I love
alcohol.
it.
You come to my class, we dance in the dark to amazing music, and we leave healthier, fitter, and just, and with a lovely, nice cool down yoga session. So I've done that for as long as I remember as well. I think 12 years.
Fantastic.
My kids are babies as well. So, and I've got this special, I always do every Women's Day, every year. I do like a special 2-hour event. So it's normally donation based because I want as many women to come and enjoy it, whatever their financial situation is. Just women just need to support more women. So, yeah, looking forward to that.
Sounds fantastic.
And then I've got
tell
my
me a little bit about. Oh, sorry, I interrupted. I do apologize.
Yeah, so that will lead on to me doing my women big collection paintings. Yeah, I'm going to call them Her Story rather than History. They'll be Her Story, and I'm looking for a place to exhibit them at the end of the year. So 2 things I'm working. Yeah.
So what do you need there? How can someone help you perhaps with the Her Story project?
Wow. So I need to reach out to people like Bristol Women's Voice and all sorts of people where I can work collectively with a bunch of women, established women groups, to maybe collaborate with them. I need to do a lot of research with that this year and make some contacts. So hopefully this will help.
Yeah, definitely. Absolutely.
Get a venue for an exhibition to make something, for talking about women, workshops.
Fantastic. I'm can't wait to see how that's going to develop.
Yeah.
And we'll put some links in the show notes for that as well. So if anybody can help you with that, they can get in touch with you. Which kind of leads me neatly on to how people can find Farrah and her work. You can go to. You're very good on Instagram, actually. I do love what you do on Instagram. And it's Farrah Contemporary Art. Farrah is Farrah. So you can find Farrah on Instagram on that handle. And she also has a website, farrahcontemporaryart.com. Well, Farrah, you have been an absolute delight to chat to. And thank you so much for being part of the Paint Pod in our first series. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please like and subscribe and tell all your friends about it. And I look forward to guiding you around our audio gallery on the next episode. Thanks and goodbye.
Thank you.